Retire the colors. We would like to thank the United States Navy Band, Navy Submarine Base New London, Groton, Connecticut Saluting Battery, and the United States Navy Ceremonial Guard Battalion Color Guard for their participation in our ceremony today. Ladies and gentlemen, Chaplain Black will deliver the invocation.
Would you join me in prayer? Eternal Father, strong to save, we thank you for this beautiful Delaware day, for the presence of our President and First Lady, and for the majesty of this ceremony. We're grateful for the USS Delaware, SSN 791. Lord, use this Virginia-class fast attack submarine as a guardian for freedom and a deterrent to aggression. Give wisdom to Commander Matthew Horton and Lieutenant Commander Adam Parkinson as they provide leadership to the crew of 136 plank owner sailors. Give these sailors aboard this submarine an optimistic outlook and a vigorous work ethic. Make them poor in misfortune and rich in blessings. Give them enough challenges to keep them humble, enough hurt to keep them humane, enough failure to keep their hands clenched tightly in yours, and enough success to make them certain they are walking with you. Do for us all more than we can ask or imagine, according to your power working in and through us. And Lord, we continue to pray for the Ukrainian people. We pray in your sovereign name. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Black. Will the guests please be seated? Delaware, parade, rest. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable John Carney.
What a beautiful day and the first day. This indeed is a day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Reverend Black, President and First Lady Biden, Secretary Del Toro, Admiral Gaudet and Admiral Caudle, Commanding Officer Horton, Lieutenant Commander Parkinson, Chief of the boat Grammer, all the crew of the boat, other distinguished guests here on the riser, members of the congressional delegation, other elected officials, to the crew and family of the USS Delaware. To our visitors, welcome to Delaware. To our President and First Lady, welcome home. This is a big and special day for our state. I'm so glad to see Senator Carper here on this stage. If I didn't see him up here, I was going to suggest we send a party out in the submarine to look for him. In addition to being a recovering governor, Senator Carper is a recovering Navy captain. It seems like a lifetime ago that I joined First Lady Biden, Senator Carper in Newport News, Virginia in September of 2018 to christen this ship. Dr. Biden did an impressive job, as impressive as I've ever seen, in smashing that bottle of champagne against the ship. She really made it, Mr. President, and that bottle just exploded. It was something to behold. Since that time, I've been so inspired by the crew and their leadership. First, Commander Hogan, and now Commander Horton, as we've watched their progress, training and learning everything about their new home on the sub. They even came to a University of Delaware Blue Hens football game, so they're learning what they need to know about our state. And it was quite a moment at halftime of the game, watching the Blue Hen fans react as they saw and recognized the sailors on the field in front of them. Finally dawned on them who they were and what they stood for, quietly at first. And then with a rising crescendo of applause, the fans took to their feet for a standing ovation. It was quite a powerful moment. The people of Delaware have embraced this ship, and especially this crew. I was so excited to join Command Officer Horton for a tour of the ship yesterday. And I got to tell you, I was simply blown away, not only by the incredible technology and industrial craftsmanship on this boat, but most importantly, by the talent and commitment of every crew member. From the food mess to the control room, the service and sacrifice of every sailor on this ship is incredible, and we all salute you. We are so lucky here in Delaware to be a coastal state, so we're actually able to have the privilege of our namesake ship gracing our shores. The ship's motto is First Defenders of Liberty, and it's fitting for a ship named after the first state to bear that motto, and it's in keeping with the role of a long line of USS Delawares dating back to the Revolutionary War. And while we certainly hope this USS Delaware will see nothing but calm waters, the events in Ukraine remind us that liberty still needs her defenders. Senator Carper, no doubt, will tell you about the very Delaware way in which this whole day has come about. So while it's been a long time coming, We couldn't be more excited and proud to have this ship bearing our state's name. I want to thank John Riley and everyone who worked over the last 3 years to make this day a reality. And most important, I'd like to acknowledge and thank all of Delaware's veterans, especially our Navy veterans and those still serving today. This ship reminds us all of your service and sacrifice. The crew of the USS Delaware joins you today in becoming part of Delaware's proud, patriotic military history. And as they used to say in Congress, I'll yield the rest of my time to the senior senator from Delaware, Senator Tom Carper, who you'll hear from later.
Thank you, Governor Carney. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Carlos Del Toro.
Good morning, Delaware. What a great day. What a great Navy day. Before I introduce the guest speaker, I think I should take just a moment, because yesterday I asked the great Chaplain Black if he would actually say a little bit of an extra prayer for good weather. And on the way here on the bus, I asked him, Chaplain, would you please just say a little prayer for fair winds? And I think he's come through on both occasions. So how about a round of applause for Chaplain Black? Dr. Biden, thank you for all that you have done as a leader, as an author, as an educator to care for our service members and military families throughout the years. The Department of the Navy and our entire military is much stronger because of Dr. Biden's leadership and your empathy, not just for our military, but for all Americans. President Biden, thank you for your staunch defense of freedom around the world. As a refugee who once fled from a communist country, I could not be prouder of the example that you set as our Commander-in-Chief, and I am proud to serve as your Secretary of the Navy, sir. Governor Carney, Senator Carper, Senator Coons, Representative Blunt Rochester, thank you for all you do as well every day to support our Navy and Marine Corps team. As the first warship to be commissioned beneath the waves, USS Delaware is already a trailblazer in her own right. Delaware's quiet entry to our fleet in April of 2020 symbolizes the stealth of our silent service. But a great ship, a great crew, and a great state deserves this great moment in the sun. So bravo Zulu to Commander Horton, Lieutenant Commander Parkinson, and Senior Chief Grammer for your success so far. And I thank the entire crew of the USS Delaware for the missions that you've already accomplished in service to our nation, and the many more that follow in your future. The sailors who power our undersea fleet are an elite breed. They're skilled, they're disciplined, and they're determined. They make enormous sacrifices, achieving amazing things over the horizon and under the waves. I thank you all. I especially thank your families for your service to our nation. I wish you all fair winds in following seas. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Senator Tom Carper. Senator Tom Carper, is the last Vietnam veteran serving in the United States Senate. He is a retired Navy captain, as the governor stated earlier, and he was a naval flight officer for more than 20 years. He has been elected to statewide office 14 times, served as Delaware's state treasurer, congressman, governor, and now as senior United States Senator. He currently chairs the Senate Committee on the Environment and Public Works and co-authored major portions of the landmark infrastructure bill signed into law by President Biden in this December. He is also a senior member and a former chairman of the Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs. On a personal level, Tom Carper is also the son and nephew of a Navy Chief Petty Officer and the grandson of Gold Star mother whose son was killed in a kamikaze attack on his carrier in World War II at the age of 19. Husband of Martha for 36 years and father of 3 sons, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you our keynote speaker and longtime champion for the building and naming of the USS Delaware, Senator Tom Carper.
Please remain standing. Just kidding. There's some Marines over there that are still standing. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for your kind introduction, and more importantly, thank you for all that you and your team have done to make this day and this event possible. Good morning, Delaware. Good morning, USS Delaware. All right, there you go. Ship sponsor Jill Biden and your +1. President of the United States, Delaware's Joe Biden. Thanks for bringing him with you, Jill. Mr. President, welcome him. Another round of applause. Go ahead, give it to him. Both of them, both of them. Governor John Carney, Chris Coons, my wingman in the United States Senate. Lisa Blunt Rochester, our wing woman in the U.S. House of Representatives. Woo! Senate Chaplain Barry Black, Chief of Naval Operations Admiral Gilday, Mayor Mike Przicki, Lieutenant Governor Bethany Hall Long, and County Executive Matt Meyer. And a warm Delaware welcome to the crew members of the USS Delaware, led by Commanding Officer Matt Horton, Executive Officer Commander Adam Parkinson, and Chief of the boat, the Cobb. Let me hear you say Cobb. There you go, Chief of the boat, Travis Grammer. And a huge Delaware welcome to, we have family members here that come from all over the country to be with us today. Huge Delaware welcome, please, to the family members of this crew. Thank you for sharing your loved ones with our country. Let's give them some love. Give them some love. While we're at it, if you're a veteran of the military service or serving today in any branch of our armed forces of this country, on your feet, please. If you could stand, on your feet, please. Just give them a great round of applause for our veterans. Navy, Army, Air Force, Marine Corps, Coasties, National Guard. Thank you. And thank you to everyone who's worked so hard for weeks and even years to make this amazing event possible, including members of my own staff, the Department of the Navy team, Secretary of State Jeff Bullock and his team, Port of Wilmington, the Navy League, and the many generous donors whose support has been a godsend. Let's give them all a nice round of applause. God bless you all, and thank you. As many of you may know, SSN 791 is not the first Navy vessel to bear the name Delaware. First USS Delaware was launched in 1776. Its role, delaying the British fleet's approach to Philadelphia and thus impeding the ability of the British Army to resupply in their battle against us for our War of Independence. The sixth U.S. Delaware was completed in April of 1910, armed with 10 12-inch guns. It was the most powerful battleship in the world. Go ahead. Over 100 years would pass before another U.S. naval vessel would bear the name USS Delaware. Then one day in 2012, I came across a letter to the editor in a local paper by a Delawarean named Stephen Lonzo, who noted that it had been a long time since a naval vessel named after our state had sailed the high seas. I thought about it for a while, and after several weeks, gathered my staff together and said, let's do something about this. The very next week, I was on the phone with then Secretary of the Navy Ray Mabus, like me, former governor, a longtime friend. I explained the situation to him. He graciously heard me out, and 3 months later, he called back to say that over the next couple of years, several ships, brand new Virginia-class nuclear submarines, would be built, and the first one off the line would be named the USS Delaware. Ray is the longest-serving Secretary of the Navy. He can't be with us today. He's at his home in Harpers Ferry, West Virginia. Patriot if there ever was one. Ray, if you're watching this, we're live streaming this. If you're watching this, just know we love you. Give him another round of applause. Thanks a million, Ray. Ray Mason, thank you for everything. Before I go any further, let me just take a couple of minutes to introduce the USS Delaware to the people of Delaware. And after doing that, I'll briefly introduce the state of Delaware to the crew of the SSN 791. And then we'll have lunch. No, we won't. We're kidding about the lunch. The USS Delaware is a Virginia-class fast attack submarine, as you know. The Delaware carries 26 Mark 48 torpedoes, which enable it to conduct the sub's more traditional missions of tracking and sinking, if necessary, enemy submarines and a wide range of surface vessels. The Delaware is also designed for versatile operations in shallow waters, close to land, performing reconnaissance missions and delivering special forces. Think Navy SEALs. It's also configured to launch Tomahawk cruise missiles, which can strike targets 1,000 miles away with pinpoint accuracy. This is one hell of a fighting machine. And to our adversaries, let me just say this: don't mess with the USS Delaware. As it turns out, there are 136 crew members aboard the USS Delaware. They hail from 20 states in our country as far away as Hawaii and Alaska. The crew includes 15 officers and 121 enlisted men, of whom a dozen or so are chief petty officers like my dad was. With that said, and having introduced the crew of the USS Delaware to the people of Delaware, let me take a minute now to introduce Delaware to the crew of the state whose name they bear. Delaware is comprised of 3 counties and 1 million people. We're 100 miles long from north to south and 50 miles from east to west along the Maryland border. Native Americans, including the Lenape Indians, lived here for hundreds of years before the Dutch arrived some 400 years ago and established Lewis, where the Atlantic Ocean meets the Delaware Bay. Later on in 1638, the first Swedes and Finns sailed right by this very spot, right behind me, right behind this spot. Made a right turn, a left turn to go head west on an unnamed river, and they named it the Christina River after the Sweden's 12-year-old child queen. Where Wilmington now stands today, they established the colony of New Sweden. The colony of New Sweden was what became Delaware, became Wilmington. The church they built there in Wilmington, in the colony, is believed to be the longest serving church, continuously serving church in North America. And they're now, believe it or not, there are more Swedish Americans than there are Swedes in Sweden. Then in 1682, William Penn would sail up the Delaware, just behind us again, up the Delaware, under the bridge. No, the bridge wasn't there then. On his way to Penn's Landing, some 25 miles north of us, carrying with him the deeds from the King of England to what would later become the colony of Pennsylvania and the lower 3 counties. That would be us. But the real Penn's Landing was not 25 miles up the river. It was right down south of us at Newcastle, Delaware, where not only did William Penn stop, but he actually spent the night. Later on, he was asked, why do you go there first? And he answered famously, tax-free shopping. A few hundred years later, further up the Christina River, 10,000 shipbuilders, mostly women, would build many of the ships, destroyer escorts, troop landing ships, that enable us to emerge victorious in World War II. And that's only part of the storied hero's history that the USS Delaware joins today. Throughout the Delaware history, the letter C has figured prominently on our state. Our first settlers planted corn, a lot of it. They raised chickens, a lot of them. Our state bird is a fighting blue hen, and today there are nearly 300 chickens for every person who lives in the first state. They got us outnumbered, folks. Later, we became known as the chemical capital of the world. Thank you, DuPont, for hundreds of amazing inventions. Delaware's coastline is not large, but I believe it's still home to more 5-star beaches than any other state coastline in America. And not long ago, we built more cars in Delaware per capita than any other state. And while we have no sales tax here, Delaware is the home of incorporation to half the Fortune 500 and the New York Stock Exchange. And finally, I don't know what's in your wallet, but there's a good chance that it's issued by a bank here with operations in Delaware. And it's okay with us if you don't pay down your balance every month. Now that's a lot of C's. And even our political leaders have gotten into the act with names like Carville, Castle, Carney, Coons, and Carper. And even though Joe Biden didn't start out as one of the C boys, he was close. Biden, you know, only off by 1 letter. And anyway, he has ended up as our nation's commander-in-chief. That's a lot of C's. Not bad for a scrappy kid from Scranton, Pennsylvania. But by far, the greatest contribution the Delaware has made since the founding of our country occurred on December 7, 1787, when Delaware became the first state to ratify our Constitution. For 1 whole week, Delaware was the entire United States of America. Constitution would become the most enduring Constitution in the history of the world, and by far the most replicated. None of us are perfect, and our Constitution wasn't perfect either. But over time, we've made it better, a lot better. It has provided a framework and a path that has made our country the envy of much of the rest of the world. But at the end of the day, however, our Constitution and our Declaration of Independence are words on a piece of paper without the resolve made real by the commitment and the sacrifice of the men and women who wear and have worn the uniform of our nation. Let me end with this. Do any of you in our audience today remember studying, maybe when you were a kid, studying the Constitution, maybe even reciting the preamble of the Constitution? I do. My sister and I did that in middle school. You'll remember it begins with these words: "We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union." It doesn't say a perfect union. Rather, it says a more perfect union. Why is that? Because as citizen of this great country, it's up to us, each of us, to do our part to ensure that the arc of American history bends toward perfection and toward justice, even knowing that we may never fully achieve them. The men who serve and will serve aboard the USS Delaware will bear our state's name for decades to come as they defend our nation. Through their sacrifice and service, may we grow even closer to that more perfect union. Before Dr. Biden speaks in a moment, I want to ask all of you to do something that the audience did with us at the christening of the USS Delaware a few years ago in Newport News. I want to ask everybody to stand. Everybody who's able to stand, just stand. Please stand. I want to ask you to take the hand of the person standing next to you on either side. Take the hand of the person standing next to you on either side. I'm going to ask you to join us in reciting that same preamble together. And I'll say a few words at a time, and then you repeat, and eventually we'll recite it all. Are you ready? Ready. Come on, are you ready? Ready? I think they're ready. All right, let's do it. We the people, of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America forever and ever. I just added those last few words. I'm an optimist. Why shouldn't we be? All right, have a seat. Have a seat. God bless and protect the crew of the USS Delaware both now and in the decades to come. And may each of you and each of us live our lives in ways to ensure that America remains a nation worthy of their sacrifice, so that a government of the people, by the people, and for the people will not perish from this earth. May God bless you all. May God bless the USS Delaware. Long may she sail. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you, Senator Carper. Executive Officer, set to watch.
Aye, aye, sir. Officer Deck, set the first watch.
Aye, aye, sir.
The officer of the deck is the commanding officer's direct representative, and while on watch is responsible for the safety and smooth operation of the ship. The long glass is the traditional symbol of an officer of the deck's authority in a ship of the line. Captain Thomas Carper, United States Navy retired and United States Senator, will assist in setting the first watch by passing the long glass to our first ship's duty officer, Lieutenant Stephen Walsh from Southborough, Massachusetts. The petty officer of the deck is Fire Control Technician 2nd Class Keaton Smith from Round Rock, Texas. The topside sentry is Torpedoman's Mate 3rd Class Noah Westfall from Ripley, West Virginia. And Boatswain's Mate of the watch is Boatswain's Mate 2nd Class Cody Platt from Grantsville, Pennsylvania.
Set the watch. On deck, section 1.
Sir, the watch is set.
Very well. Captain, the first watch is set.
Very well, XO.
Ship's company, attention. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Joseph R. Biden, Jr.
My name is Joe Biden. I'm Jill's husband. It's always a good day when I get to celebrate Delaware, or spend time with service members and their families, or introduce Jill. That's a trifecta in my family. Governor Carney, Senator Carper, Senator Coons, Congresswoman Blunt-Rochester, Secretary Del Toro, Commander Horton, and all the crew members and families of the USS Delaware. I'm genuinely honored to be with you. This latest ship to carry the USS Delaware is part of a long tradition of serving our nation proudly and strengthening our nation's security of the United States of America. Not just us, but our allies and partners around the world as well. In fact, it's already been doing that for some time. So I just want to say thank you to everyone involved in bringing this submarine to service, for those who laid the keel, for those sailors who will crew it, and through all the years to come. And I want you to know that I've had an incredible partner. Jill has watched over the progress of the USS Delaware for years. The daughter of a Navy signalman during World War II, the mother of a member of the Delaware National Guard, the grandmother of children who experienced having their father deployed away from home for a year at a time. She always holds our military and their families in her heart, and that is not hyperbole, that's real. And I'm deeply proud of the work she's doing as First Lady with Joining Forces Initiative. She started with Michelle Obama when she was Vice President and now carries on. As First Lady, she's been to more military installations around the world. She's hosted more than 20 events for military families. And she's working to expand economic opportunities for military spouses, who, by the way, in the words of Keats, they also serve, who only stand and wait. And a submariner spouse stands and waits a lot. And to help military kids for the support they need. And to make sure survivors and caregivers have the resources they deserve. It's a true passion for Jill and for our entire family. As your Commander-in-Chief, I believe it is our sacred obligation as a nation to prepare and equip those troops that we send into harm's way and to care for them and their families when they return home. Now it's my honor to introduce your First Lady, the sponsor of this great vessel, Jill Biden.
Thank you, Mr. President. I must admit, I never get tired of saying that. As this ship's sponsor, it's my pleasure to welcome so many distinguished guests, and especially the Secretary of the Navy and Admirals Gilday and Caudle, Commander Horton, Senior Chief Grammer, and the entire crew of the USS Delaware. It's an honor to share this special day with you and your families. I especially want to welcome some of my good friends from Delaware Boots on the Ground. You know, working with you connected me to a community of incredible military families. And all these years later, your work continues to inspire me. And I hope you can see your influence in our Joining Forces initiative. So where are my Delaware Boots on the Ground members today? Where are they sitting? They're down. They're down. Okay. Wow, you're down there? The state of Delaware has loved the Bidens and cheered for us in most of our triumphant moments. It has carried us through the darkest times in our lives with a kindness that asks for nothing in return. Delaware is family. I'll never forget the pride I felt when I stood at the Pentagon with Secretary of the Navy Ray Mabus, as well as you, Tom, to announce that I would be the ship's sponsor. The USS Delaware was nothing more than a drawing then. In 2016, my grandson Hunter joined me for the keel laying. And I think he felt the important connection that our family has to service then. And it was such a special moment for both of us. Then in 2018, I traveled to Newport News for the christening, seeing that simple drawing come to life in a shower of champagne. And I saw the truth of what Secretary Mabus said when it all began, that this vessel will always uphold the first state's motto of liberty and independence. So it's difficult to put into words how much it means to be a part of the USS Delaware family. It's an incredible honor that I take seriously. I have cherished getting to know this community, from bowling with you at Newport News to spending time with your families at Fort Groton for the holiday last December. I've seen the heart of this crew, and it makes me feel both proud and humbled to be your shipmate for life. Today's celebration, like so many things in the past few years, is just a bit out of the ordinary. At the beginning of the pandemic, the Delaware became the first ship ever commissioned while underwater underway. It was a challenge to put a ship in service in the middle of a global pandemic, but you rose to the occasion, as you always do. Even if we are a little delayed in our celebration, today marks the beginning of an incredible journey, the ship's long and faithful service to our country. We may not know what's to come, but we do know this: the challenges will be met with honor, distinction, and valor of the 125 sailors who serve on her decks. You will lead with unparalleled character and courage. Of course, commissionings also mark a beginning for the families of the sailors as well. Though the spouses and the children, parents and siblings with us today will stay on dry land, a piece of their hearts will sail away again and again. You too have a mission. You too serve our nation. And as we look at this warship, we see its steel bulkheads and unbreakable hull. We see that it's strong enough to withstand the most crushing pressure and slip silently through the deadliest waters. And yet so much of its power is unseen. The engines and sonar, the rudders that give it direction and purpose. You, the families of this crew, may not wear a uniform, but with your love and support and with your sacrifice and devotion, you are as critical to our mission as the rudder is to this submarine. Sailors, as you venture to new waters, know that the families who remain ashore will not be forgotten by your president or by me. We are working every day to honor the sacrifices that all of you make. When our son Bo deployed to Iraq, another military mom shared with me a prayer, one that I said every night while he was deployed. And it goes like this: may the deep waters bring you more solace than strife. May the friendships you find warm the cold walls of this vessel with laughter. May you feel the glow of each goodbye embrace long after the horizon has lost the shore. May that light illuminate even the dimmest berthing. May you always return home safely to the arms of the people who love you most. And may God bless our troops and your families, no matter where your journey takes you. Amen. Governor Carney, Senators Carper and Coons, Congresswoman Blunt Rochester, thank you for this celebration today. And to our sailors, thank you for your service and sacrifice. Thank you for allowing me to be your shipmate for life. Everybody's here? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, shipmates, officers and crew of the USS Delaware, man our ship and bring her to life. Amen.